Crowfoot was a fierce warrior, but as a leader, you got to know when to be a warrior. You got to know when to be a diplomat. You got to know what's the best for your people. You got to know how, it's going to affect not just this generation, but 2, 3, 4, 7 generations from now. I'm Chief Crowfoot, the current Chief of Siksika. Behind me is my great-great-great-grandfather, Chief Crowfoot. The Blackfoot people have been in this area for tens of thousands of years. So I've had a long line of chiefs in my family. If you look at the traditional territory of the Blackfoot people, it was a vast land. We have the second largest reserve in Canada from a land base perspective. So from our people being able to roam all the way north of Edmonton, all the way down to the Yellowstone Park in the States. Imagine 15, 20 years before the signing of the Blackfoot Treaty, there was very few non-native people in this area. Now you start seeing Fort Calgary come up. You start seeing the buffalo numbers dwindle down. And you start seeing the smallpox, and your people are dying. And your people are starving because you don't have the same food base you once had. And you have to make drastic decisions. Crowfoot at that time had befriended some of the newcomers, and he knew that they weren't going to stop coming. He knew the best way for his people, for the future of his people, was to form a treaty with these newcomers. Crowfoot made a lot of concessions and a lot of hard decisions in negotiating Treaty Number 7. But they were decisions that he thought would benefit his people for many generations to come. The way the Blackfoot looked at that treaty was sometimes a different way that the non-natives looked at that treaty. We didn't look at it word for word. We looked at it as the spirit and intent of how that treaty was made. It was a working together relationship, not a surrender, not a giving up, not a land grab or anything like that. It was a working together. It was like, we agree to, work with you guys on certain things. Canada would not be the country it is today if it wasn't for the rich history of people like Chief Crowfoot and the Blackfoot Nation. Chief Crowfoot actually was inducted into the Railroad Hall of Fame because of his acts and his deeds that helped the railroad go from coast to coast across Canada. A lot of people don't know that. If it wasn't for the Blackfoot Treaty, commonly known today as Treaty Number 7 that was signed in 1877, the railroad might not have went all the way across to the West Coast. One of the steps that can go towards recognition, reconciliation, would be putting a Chief Crowfoot on a $5 bill. A lot of times we acknowledge our founding fathers and stuff like that, but like I'm saying, Chief Crowfoot is a founding father, in my opinion. What would Canada be like if it wasn't for that Blackfoot Treaty? We'll never know. Luckily, we'll never know. So I think most Canadians don't realize the ancient history that's here in the country that they think is only a couple of hundred years old. When I look around in our council chambers and I look around our nation, I see reminders of my ancestors. I see reminders of Crowfoot. I see reminders of the sacrifices that were made for our people today. It's time now for Canada to start recognizing the great sacrifices, the great importance that Indigenous people, Indigenous leaders such as Chief Crowfoot has done for Canada and North America.